These look like golf clubs.
No, they don't. I don't know. Are you looking? Am I sharing my screen? These don't look like golf clubs. They maybe used to be golf clubs. These are clubs our students bring in. So it's pretty shocking to see this when someone comes in and they want to play better, and you have a 7-iron with no grooves,
That iron
totally
is
smooth face.
incredible.
See a 975J driver. That's pretty good. I'm a big fan of the 76-degree wedge. How many of those do you have in your bag?
I need one.
Anything that says Founders Club. And then you've got a Sasquatch driver. Nike doesn't make clubs anymore. Pile that onto the knockoff of the company that doesn't make any golf clubs anymore, and you have like quite a recipe for success. But students really bring this in, so I wanted to set up some sort of appointment type where you could, I suppose, talk to somebody about golf clubs. So that's what
Wait,
we're talking about today: is how to do a club consultation.
hold on. Did I see on your slides that 76% of people get better after club fitting? Go back to that. There was something interesting there.
You didn't see that, but
There
let
we
me
go.
see what.
75% saw an increase in total distance
Correct.
after
So
fitting.
this is, yeah. I mean, if you want to get into why you get fit for golf clubs, this is it. But I wasn't going to show this slide, but now that you want to. So 3/4 of people who come in and get fit for a driver hit it farther. Then out of those 75% that do hit it farther, the average distance gain is about 18 yards.
Wow.
And then 20% of those people saw more than 33. So there's
That's crazy.
your, it's like your plug. If there's something so simple about how to determine whether or not you should get fit for golf clubs, anyone who's serious about golf should look at those couple bullets right there and say, wow, I need to do that. And then it's a cheap investment. Like the product itself is not cheap. It's cool to do a professional fitting with someone, which you can do in person. And we're getting open in most of our locations and people can do that. But if you're serious about golf and you don't take club fitting somewhat serious, you're just holding yourself back. And that's really all we do for club fitting anyway, is try to go into the appointment with the idea that we're not actually going to sell you a thing. We're just looking for deficiencies in what you play, which we're going to do with your bag here in just a second, and then opportunities that you might have, or tell you about some clubs that are really holding you back. So if you decide to do one of these free virtual club consultations with us, no one's at the other end trying to sell you anything. We've had tons of people take us up on the lesson portion, but this I think is just as valuable for people.
So let's dive in. Today we're doing a what's in the bag. We've got a beautiful golf bag sitting next to me right here.
Yep.
With some real beauties in it.
So you're yeah, I can't wait to see this. So you're a special case. You have 75 putters lined up on the wall. You're an avid golfer. And I'm curious because you have your bag. I want to just run through this like we would do it now. So inside of the GOLFTEC app, you can schedule these appointments. You do them as a Zoom call, just like what we're doing now.
Okay.
And you'll then be able to talk to a professional coach who fits golf clubs and get an idea of what you're doing. So really that's what we're doing now. So I'm somewhat curious about what you have in your bag now, but really because you know a lot about equipment. I know from previous conversations, your driver you're happy with. But tell me about the rest of your gear.
Yeah, so let's dive in. The driver is awesome. We've talked about this in the past, but we've got it's now a little bit older, but still amazing. Yeah. Got the ping, and then I have TPT golf shaft. This is the greatest shaft that I've ever played.
That's awesome. And because you've been well fit for that, you can keep that thing for a couple of years without feeling like anything's holding you back. I do really like the new 410 plus, and this would be the one I'd tell you to try based on how I think you hit balls. If anything, you curve too much to the left, but this would be a really good one to try if you wanted to venture out. But
so that takes us right to the part of my bag that I dislike the most.
Great.
So, yes, I haven't bought anything in a long time. I've got this old 5-wood. Look at this thing. Isn't that beautiful?
That's not old. That's ancient.
It's amazing.
They're antiques when they're 25 years old, I heard.
Oh, it might be an antique. So 18.5-degree 5-wood was not fit for this. I've just played it for a long time. And I do not like fairway woods in general. It's a weird thing. I'll top them occasionally. Like, I'm not joking. I don't know
Oh no,
why.
I totally believe you. Don't worry.
But I hit this good. I hit it good. Like, I'll play it. I
Okay.
hit some really great shots with it. The problem is I go from there to a 4-iron.
Right.
So because I am who I am and I love tinkering and I love trying new things, I have single length irons in my golf bag.
Okay. Okay.
4-iron right here. So we got the Adele Golf. For irons, they've got these Patterson shafts, which are actually really nice. I like those a lot. I have that through sand wedge,
Okay.
and I enjoy it. I just have enjoyed playing. I've played it for 2 or 3 years now. I enjoy the conversations that I get when I show up with these to round of golf. It's always a good conversation starter. There's another selling point if anyone's looking for, like, hey, how do I have better small talk while golfing? Get yourself a set of single length irons.
Well, and I know that I'm not. I guess I'm not a proponent or advocating people don't play single length irons. I don't really think it's game changing in the way that it's presented. They are very different, and there are some challenges that come with that. But if you love those things, that's great. Sounds like, so help me if I'm saying something wrong. You have your 4-iron, which in those single length irons is actually 20 degrees, is pretty strong, but it has to be that way with shorter shafts and just the way they're made to launch. And then you go to your 18 degree 1970s fairway wood, and then in there you don't really hit any clubs very well anyway. So like that chunk of your bag, how far do you carry a 4-iron, like on a good one?
Yeah, like a carry is going to be probably 205 to like 210, 205. So I do hit it off the tee. If like it's a short par 4, I'll hit it off the tee. It goes, and I'll try to hit a draw or a hook, and I'll go 220, right?
Okay.
So that's a big problem because there's a lot of holes where that's too short and the driver's too long. And so you've got this gap, and it's like, well, good luck. So I'll hit the 5 wood, which is fine. And it works out 60%, 70% of the time.
Well, those aren't very good odds, Cordie.
That is correct. Yep.
Okay. 4-iron, 205 yards.
Yep.
And then like, what's a comfortable distance you would hit that 5 wood?
230, 235.
And you hit it well like that about 60% of the time.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that definitely sounds like it's probably your biggest gaping hole then.
Yep.
And then your driver, if you hit that just a normal drive, how far does that go?
It depends. I think I carry it like 275, 280.
Okay. So then you've got your gaps in there are pretty wild for sure. And then this one you don't even hit that often. So I mean, how many 5 woods around do you think you hit off the ground?
What's the best thing about this 5 wood is I got this awesome head cover.
This is
the most exciting thing about my 5 wood. It's from Cordie Golf Club, this little golf club in Scotland outside of Edinburgh. When we were over there, someone who followed along Golf Science Lab reached out. He had me out to the club. We played. It was awesome.
Wow.
We had a great time, and have this little memento which I take with me. That's the most exciting part about my 5 wood.
Okay. How many times around do you think you hit it off the ground?
Well, maybe once.
Yeah, 1 or 0. And you do that mainly because you don't like it, or you're not playing enough holes where that's like a serious club for you to have anyway. I'm guessing a par 5.
Yep.
You don't hit it off the tee by the sounds of it.
So at my home club, I hit it off the tee on 2 holes.
Okay. So we could talk ad nauseum about just more and more questions about why you don't play that thing. But basically you have a gap from 205 on, and you need to fill that thing with something new. So you've got choices. First, I'd tell you going on like the high side, I do like these G410s. I would say the SFT right here is probably better for you. It's the straight flight technology, and it's maybe mildly draw bias, but not much. The center of gravity on this one would be trending probably closer to between the green and the blue dot on this club that I've drawn here. So you get a little bit of a toe hit on that, and I'll explain that a touch more, but I would just minimize that by aiming a little bit in the heel and try to smash this thing with a divot. So we do also talk about ad nauseum how to hit your long clubs better, even though you don't think I'm talking to you when we're talking about it. And that would be how to hit a shot, punch the ground, and still keep the handle low through the shot, so that from that side view camera, you still are exiting around below your shoulder. I'd start with that. That'd be a good way to learn how to hit those better, even if they came out a little lower than what you're used to. So you could try this is the 16 degree G410 SFT. That'd be an interesting one to try. You might be able to knock that thing out there 260, 270 if you have.
What are the different ping? The SFT is one. What are the different models there with the
the LST is a little smaller head, and it's going to spin less, which for you, you're not really looking to maximize how far you can hit this thing. So I'd tell you probably adding some spin with that other model would be beneficial. Now, if you really, really like a tiny club head, this would be better. And I don't mean this as it's tiny. It's just significantly smaller than the SFT. So
well, let's talk about 3-wood strategies, Nick. So I as I've said many times, and I'll keep saying this, I love my driver. I love hitting driver. Like I hit it all the time, right?
Yes.
Because I know typically where it's going to go. It's like I hit it great. I'll hit it on holes that are tight because it's probably the club's going to go straightest. So even if I get a 3-wood that I like, why would I hit the 3-wood when I have this driver that I think is great, and I'm really confident in it?
At that point, I wouldn't. I'd try to play golf like Rory McIlroy if that's how you're feeling, and those are the results you get. And then you're tracking your game well enough to know if that's holds water or not. You could take one of these cool 3-woods out and play a couple of rounds of golf with this and your driver, and alternate front 9, back 9, only hitting this off the tee. So the front 9, next time you play, hit this 16 degree 3-wood and see how you score and where the balls end up. And then play the back 9 with your driver like usual, and then alternate that the next time you play. There's some diversity in there that makes it fun. And then you would have some objective data to really know if your hypothesis is true. But I have no doubt you hit your driver straighter. First, that ping driver is awesome. And then the MOI of that is so high that that's the most forgiving club really you might have in your bag, even though it's the longest and potentially hardest to hit. So I see no problem with that.
Do you think too many people hit a 3-wood when they should hit a driver because they're trying to be safe, or they're trying to do that?
Maybe if you're trying to be strategic on how far you hit it, then that's fine. If your skill set is just not there to be able to manage your driver well, so you hit a lot of 3-woods, then I'd say you have a motor program or a skill problem that can be addressed. It's not magic that PGA Tour players hit a lot of fairways and drive it far. People can learn how to do that. You don't have to grab your 3-wood. It's a decent band-aid because it does spin more. It's going to minimize the distance offline because it's not going as far, but you are sacrificing how far it can go. Your mishits aren't as good. Your MOIs on your 3-wood are not as strong. So in some ways it's better, in some ways it's not helping at all. So I could see that being a pretty big myth on for someone watching this, that they think I need to hit the fairway, I should hit my 3-wood. I wouldn't say that's necessarily true.
What do you think? I don't know. This would be an interesting something to look up, but like, how often should you be hitting a 3-wood off the tee? Obviously, it's very course dependent, right? Some courses never, but some courses a lot. Like, what would you look for? Is there a rule of thumb?
I don't necessarily think there's going to be a rule of thumb that I could blanket out there for everyone. I would say if you have more than 60 yards to hit something into the fairway with your driver, that's probably the shot you should hit. So if there's something left or right more than 60 yards from the center of the fairway, then I could see why you might want to go just with a shorter shot, and potentially we'll have less offline. But otherwise, people should be standing up there smashing their driver into the fairway. And I'm just more of a proponent of that because I think it's very doable. If you don't take lessons, you don't want to take lessons, then there's a bigger strategy to that.
Gotcha.
I'm not really interested in getting into. I think people should just take lessons and learn how to hit their driver into the fairway.
I like that.
So we got you should.
Yeah.
Sorry, that's just a blanket statement for sure. So then I would say trying those, and I just picked those out because there's some diversity in what it is. You like your pink driver.
Yep.
You'd have about the same look. You could pop a similar shaft in there performance wise. And that would help you roll with that. The next part though, if you do overdraw, I grabbed a different one to draw. You have other options though, because that's
Yep.
certainly not your defining one. I really like these super hybrids from Callaway. So they're built like drivers in that they have the jailbreak tech in there. They are trying to make the face very fast so the ball does go very far. And it's a combination of a size between like a hybrid and a fairway wood. So it's interesting. So this one has 17 degrees aloft. I'd probably recommend you try this as if you wanted to tinker around with something to replace your old G5 wood.
Yeah.
The other aspect of this that's important, I think, that sometimes is overlooked in your club fitting piece is just the hosel itself. This has some adjustability up to where you can add a couple of degrees aloft, and you can take one away too. So you can really get this to be a pretty strong, like 4 wood, and they go far. Like this is a rocket launcher. It's got your composite crown to it, and it is a good one to try out. I drew on this one though, because I think
Yeah.
this is where a lot of people go wrong on their understanding of how these longer clubs work. So let me try to get this just in a way I can present it. So there's the top of the club. Can't see any lines. As I start turning this more, I'm going to try to show you what I drew on this without the reflection off that light.
Yeah.
The vertical lines, those are not in line with the center of gravity. Try my best to get this one here. Okay, so you can see where I drew this line, the furthest one towards the toe.
Yep.
That's actually in line with the sweet spot, which sits right up here. You can see the little chevron up there.
Yep.
Okay, then the other one that's a little bit closer to the heel.
Yep.
I'm making that like your sweet spot. That's where I would try to hit these, especially if I had an overdraw bias, with the idea that you hit basically that highlighted orange spot. Now, when I put this thing on the ground, it looks like because of the visuals of the chevron on the top and the shape of the club, I am maybe advocating that most people hit their hybrids a quarter of an inch off center towards the heel if you don't want to draw it. But when you put this thing down, it looks massively like I drew that in the heel. So I think that's a good thing to do if you want to tinker around with your own clubs. It's just a wet erase marker that I'd use on this whiteboard behind me, and it comes off really easy. But you could draw a similar little 2 vertical lines, a little bit apart, quarter of an inch apart, and start with the one right in the center, the one most toeward, and draw that. Then look down at where you should be hitting this thing. And I say that mainly because the center of gravity on a lot of these hybrids, now this one doesn't necessarily subscribe to that, but because of the way they're designed, there's a lot of weight in the hosel. Some of the shaft goes in here, and they need a bunch of metal just to hold this thing together. That tends to drag the center of gravity towards the heel. A lot of companies like this one from Callaway have compromised by putting a bunch of weight up here into the top of the club and closer to the toe, or just you can see the height of the toe of the club, which then starts dragging it towards the middle again. But a lot of the older hybrids, like if you haven't changed your hybrids in 5 to 10 years, you may have some that the center of gravity is too close to the heel. And that's typically where I've always heard tour players or friends of mine who are good or students who are good, I hook everything with these long clubs. It's not you. It's not because of anything other than that gearing piece. And that's what really compromises that strike. So I think you would do a whole lot better if you were up there practicing your long game. And I would say for you, a hybrid like this one, maybe even in like the 23-degree version, 20 or 23, smash it into the ground. So you're hitting it what feels like the angle of attack more of, say, a 7-iron. Keep your hand path coming out low in your follow through, and you probably get some very high spin shots that you could use productively past that 205 range. So it's like a little crash course on club design, plus the way that you can use that information to help yourself.
I was one of those golfers. I had a whole handful of hybrids, and I hated them all. They they all went left, and they were unpredictable, and like so that's why there's been nothing in my bag. I just gave up.
Yeah. And so, yes, exactly. And that's what a smart person really does after some trial and error, and they can't figure it out. Um, think of like a tour player who says, I don't work with the teacher. I just do my trial and error thing." Basically, they've done trial and error with the teacher and didn't get any better, so they just stopped. You're kind of doing the same thing. I've tried all these different clubs. I can't get it to work, so I'm just not going to use it anymore. They're similar messages. Part of the other challenge here is the lie angle of most of the hybrids and fairway woods is more upright than what people really need. That's done because it does. If I put the club face just flat on the ground, the face itself aims pretty straight that way. But the minute I start to make the heel of the club closer to the ground than the toe, now it's starting to change where the club face is actually pointed. I don't see that being a huge problem with hybrids and fairway woods, but it does contribute some to the over curving too. That has a lot more to do really with just starting too straight. But I find people probably like you who could push and they'd still hook too much, and that has way more to do with the gear effect um, than just that point, the
So
uprightness of the club.
and just to clarify, when the CG is pushed towards the heel, that causes more of a hook bias.
Yeah, more of a draw bias. So that's a good point. So we can sketch that out here. So everything on this part of the club is giving you more likely of a result of drawing too much.
Okay.
So you mishit any of those slightly towards the toe, and you get a much bigger gearing, much lower MOI on those off-center hits, and you get those hard hooks that don't go very far. You never really hit a hard hook that went too far. They're always coming up short. That's showing you the mishitting, the lack of spin that's on the ball at that point. So for you, you take your 4-iron at 20 degrees. I would probably tell you try a 20-degree super hybrid if I were going to just pick one.
Yep.
You can adjust that a couple degrees either way. Even though they're the same loft, the super hybrid 20 degrees will go much further. The shaft's longer. It's built like a driver. It isn't built like an iron. They're built for the faster faces, so you can double up on that loft. Then either do the 17 and bend it down, or change the hosel down to the 16, which also opens the club face a little bit, not much, but a tiny bit, which should help you push more.
Like that.
And you'd have two that are pretty easy to hit. If you want to go down another road, you can certainly get into the hybrids that you've mentioned before, which are the
Why do you think this thing has been
Axe.
so popular? What's going on with this?
I think it's super forgiving, and it's potentially the way that the tour player heads are being made. I don't know which head Rory's playing, but to speculate some of that, like Dustin Johnson, Rory McIlroy, a lot of the TaylorMade guys are playing this. I think they like being able to launch something really high, but that draw bias has always been a problem. So I'd speculate that what's really being done is that there's a little tiny hole up in their versions, and if not, they do it a different way, and they're pumping some glue, which adds some weight to that. Out here towards the toe, which then moves the center of gravity towards the toe, and now even a centered strike might give them a little bit of a fade bias. So I would hypothesize that. And then these things are just rocket launchers. Hybrids used to be built to go a yardage. I feel like most of them are trending towards they're just going to go far now. They're making the faces faster, always playing a little bit with the lofts. They've just become a weapon in that regard that didn't necessarily exist for a while. But supposedly they're playing that Sim Max hybrid, which I'm a big fan of too. I don't see a whole lot of draw bias in this, but I haven't measured it either.
Yeah. So the other thing has been that I was thinking about was, what do you think about like the driving irons? Like I was hitting one of the Strixon ones the other day, getting some okay results, maybe not quite as high as I wanted it to go.
Yeah.
Or
those are definitely really good for certain players. If you are nervous about the launch angle being too high when you hit, then those driving irons are pretty good. The center of gravity's not down as low on those. But you do get a lot less gearing on the mishit shots there as well. So I do like them, but they are harder to launch in the air. They aren't as forgiving. It's a challenge for me to say someone who's maybe even below like a 10 handicap should be pulling out one of those. Like even getting into, let me show you this chart I've got here.
Yeah.
This is how I would start with trying to hypothesize what sort of configuration you've got. Just have columns and rows here, and you find yourself on here. So if you know your club head speed with a 6-iron, which I'm guessing this is you, then I can go down this row and easily find what club configuration you should be playing, Cordie. See what I did there?
Yeah. Can you skip one more over?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, there we go. Perfect.
This column.
Yep.
See what you saw what we did there?
No, we can't hear it. I'm sure it was
only
wonderful.
On the Cordie Walker show right there. You can't hear that.
That's I'm sure it was good next though. Time. That was a good one.
I'll use it next time. So yeah, you've got your you swing fast enough, stick to that 3-through pitching wedge. Suggesting you probably do like a hybrid or iron as a 2, and then get right into your 3-wood. For you, because you dislike those clubs more, I'm actually probably treating you more like this. Yeah. Not necessarily for any reason, but I bet if you wanted to really talk about how do you hit your 5-wood relative to a handicap level, it's probably more in here. Not necessarily with your best potential, but on average, it sounds like you're not hitting the best shots. So trending this way would be fine. Our average player walks in is somewhere around here, and they come in shooting close to 100, and I see a 4-iron in their bag, when really just suggesting start with a 6-iron would be a good start, and then get a 7-wood, a couple hybrids in your driver. And that would really help you with the long part of your game. And I feel like that's a misunderstood part. So if you do this club consultation with us, your coach has access to this chart. They'll pull it up for you if you want to ask, and be able to talk you through it. But for you, living in this range right here would be fine.
So what's going on? I see 4-woods everywhere on that chart. Why all the 4-wood love there?
Yeah, so the launch angle that you need to be able to hit a shot into the air, if you can't hit a 3-wood 15 degrees into the air, 13 to 15 degrees, you don't have like a very usable club. So most people with the ball on the ground, swinging at club head speeds that are under 85 miles an hour, really have a hard time getting the launch angle appropriate. So in many cases, grabbing a 4-wood or adding more loft, like the 16-degree SFT, you can add a couple degrees of loft to that, and pretty soon you have something that would actually go farther than a 3-wood. So in a lot of regards, I'm not telling you grab a 13-degree 3-wood, even though you have the club head speed to do it, because it's not necessary for you. You need something that will go up into the air, spin enough, and be able to carry a distance that you're somewhat comfortable with.
Well, I mean, the only reason to have that 3-wood to max out distance is if you have that distance into par 5s, right? Like if you're on that edge of like 260 into par 5s that you can go for without water whatever it is, like then maybe you need it, but I don't know how often that is for most people.
The other good reason to really have that is a tour player, Rory McIlroy, wants to hit 280 instead of 320. He feels comfortable with that, but that's not your average guy. Your average guy should be smashing their push draw driver into the fairway, 250 at least, and then understanding how to play the game from there, and not worrying about, do I lay it up 20 yards shorter or 40 yards shorter than that. So to run you through what I would tell you to do is that if this is exactly how your coach would present it during the appointment too. If I were you, it looks like the biggest gaps you have are that 205 to driver range from what you asked me. I'd try to fill that in with easy clubs to hit, maybe practicing your swing form a little bit so the club isn't raising up off of your rib cage, or your arms aren't raising up through the ball quite as much, and a little less twisting of the shaft as a result. And you'd have like that long part of your bag would be pretty well covered. You're a good golfer, so you've learned how to adapt your game without that. And you may play a course where a shot over 205 really isn't even that significant to you. But if you do travel and you want your handicap to travel with you, that can be a good start. So maybe just trying one of those things, whatever it is. Whether
those super hybrids look pretty cool.
Yeah,
you showed there.
I like that one. I really like all of them. The Cobra Baffler I don't have in front of me here. The TaylorMade fairway woods look awesome. I don't think there's a bad vendor, and that goes to the story we've probably talked about 30 years ago. If you were trying to buy golf clubs, there might have only been one company that made anything you actually wanted to play. 20 years ago, 10 years ago, maybe. now you have some quality products from all of these vendors, and that's why we carry them. I'm able to test these things. I can make sure, by these things I mean the heads, measure the CG, the MOI, and know whether or not these products are actually good. And I can tell you through measuring them, it's not the OEM that matters so much as just getting fit for the club you're going to get. So making sure you have the loft right, making sure you know where the center of gravity as a consumer is actually something you should know, and our coaches can tell you, and helping you understand where to hit the ball in the club, because it's not always as easy as hitting it in the middle.
Yep.
Then for a driver, if you want something else to try, I still have this Orlamar Slice Killer. I think you should give it a shot. The offset's pretty minimal. It's only like 2 inches.
Send it over to me.
I think you'll love it.
Go to FedEx and ship that to me, and I'll show you some really cool flight tracers.
That would be fun. Let's do that. Okay, let me put this over here. Harvey, handle that.
Harvey's
ship that off. Put it in the mail. He's going to get his thumbs in action and go. So we've got that kind of thing, and then I think this gives you an opportunity. We do also, if you're looking at, can you still see my screen? I don't know if
I can.
The right,
yep.
The right part. So I got paused on a different. Let's try this one more time. Wrong PowerPoint.
That's just fine.
Our coaches also have access to a lot of the drawings that we've created based on where the center of gravity is on some of these golf clubs, to show you they're not all in the same place. So this goes a long way to understanding why a driver is more draw bias or fade bias than others, why some will spin more than others, and ultimately just why you do something different with each one of these drivers. And then we talk about what MOI means with everyone. So it's like a really good chance for, if you're a real nerd and you want to know something about clubs, I mean, giving you this free opportunity to do it. And it won't be free forever, because it is a service I think is worth being paid for. But right now, I think it's a great time for people who are interested in buying clubs, which is this time of the year, to learn something about what they should get. And at the end of this thing, no one's telling you got to go buy something. Just here's some information.
Perfect. This is great. We got to dive back into the CG stuff more. Another show. I know we did it with Paul Wood, but I want to do it some more, because I'm enjoying learning, and I think others are as well. So we'll put this on the calendar, folks. We'll come back to this.
Well, I was hoping to do it today, but yesterday's show got rained out because they had that power outage here.
Yeah.
Right before we were about to go on. So sorry you missed that. But next week, this would be a good time to go through drivers. And sorry, I thought for some reason we'd even done this to some degree, and maybe we have, but I will say this is not something you can find on the internet. I've yet to find anyone who's actually talking about center of gravity and MOI and where it's at, and doing some sort of video discussion about it. Once in a while, you can find something written about it, but and this is super huge. Everything we talk on the show is not, it's made for golfers, and it's meant to be, this is stuff if you want to understand some heady, high level stuff about golf, that's what we're trying to give you. It isn't just for teachers. This isn't for club fitters. It's fine if they enjoy that, but it's stuff every golfer should know, but you can't find it everywhere.
You know what else I want to do an episode on, Nick? Which is one of my topics I like talking about, is grips and grip size.
Yeah.
That's one of the most interesting things I think that nobody talks about enough. So
for putters, or for
I think for all clubs.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
There's some studies, some things that I can share, and let's talk about that. We'll put that on the calendar too. Look at this. We're doing a really good job of just setting ourselves up for success. So folks are getting excited about future shows. This is how you do programming. We're just showing everything here today. Success
or failure if they don't go well, but
yeah,
I'm going with your route. Sorry you can't hear that. I wish you could hear that today. That's really
you're
good.
a little.
I thought you had that. Oh well, next time.
Next time. All right, Nick. Hey, we will. We'll see you back next week. Hope you have a good weekend.
We're doing the match, right, on Tuesday?
Oh yeah, we'll talk about the match. We'll look at some golf swings from that. I'm excited about that. That is Sunday. Gosh, golf 2 weekends in a row.
Yep.
What a treat.
I know, you can't get that in any other live sports. $5. Peyton Manning wins.
I think you got to take the team. So Peyton and Tiger.
Peyton and Tiger.
Okay.
Whatever.
Okay. All right, I'll take the other side. That's good. I'm in.
Deal. Writing that down. Okay, let's not forget. So let's talk Tuesday about. Well, I'm sure you're actually making me watch golf, which I'm not always a big fan of, but I'm going to do it. I want to listen to the commentary. I'm going to not hear much of it, but if I find something weird, we're going to talk about that. And then just talk about maybe their swings if I can grab a good screenshot or two of that.
Should I just tweet at you just random bets throughout the show?
Yes.
Or throughout the match? Okay.
Yes. Follow us on Twitter to see what's happening.
All right, everybody. We will see y'all next week. Thanks, Nick.
Thanks, Cordie.